wasn't planning on sitting here before, but it seems to be the best spot.
No,
You're
I can't hear
so
anything.
cute.
Okay.
Look at your little frame. You're so framed up so nicely. You can tell you're a pro.
Yeah.
We just hung these this week, actually. We've
Oh my
lived here since
gosh.
August and hadn't figured it out yet.
It's like made it
I
so
know.
nice for
Yeah,
you.
it
You
looks
look great.
Thank you.
We're recording right now, just so you know.
I see that in the
we
corner.
had Jeff Specs on, and he was like 10 minutes in, he's like, wait, do we start? I didn't know we started. But anyway, so can I put these in front of the...
Yeah, these are the
'Cause I feel like we're
pom-poms.
These are for Valentine's Day. These
Yeah.
are our Valentine's pom-poms.
We decorated too.
Even though this episode is going to go out in a few weeks yet anyway.
Adorable. Well, I've got a little heart necklace. It's my only
Nice.
Oh,
Valentine's
good.
thing.
We're so festive.
We're
Wow.
so festive.
You're such a pro. Thanks so much for doing this.
Of course. Thanks
All
for
right,
asking.
so our guest today is Brit Buckley, who we grew up with. We went to middle school and high school together, but now you're a super legit music industry. You're an insider, you know.
LA insider.
You're
But, after 9 years here, I guess it's inevitable.
yeah,
true.
that's about what it takes, right? Like I feel like I'm sort of finally have my feet on the ground, and it takes a while in this town.
When I first moved here, I was like, "Who's here? Who do I know that lives here?" You were the first one that came to mind. You're like anchored here.
I
Do you
love
still
it. Yeah, I
love
feel like
LA?
everybody hits me up when they first move here, and we either end up hanging out a lot and become part of each other's lives again, or it's kind of like a jumping off point, and I'm like, "Hey, welcome to LA," and then they go and they find their thing.
You give
Well,
them
on
their
that
little push.
note, we did one hike up Griffith. That's actually the only time that I've hiked that. We found some other spots we like, but that was so nice. I've got to get back, and then I hope to take you up on your offer to come play board games at some
Yes,
point.
you guys are actually sitting on a Settlers of Catan box right now on my
Nice. I
table.
love
Oh, wow.
That's a great game.
Nice.
Have you played Settlers of Catan?
I have.
Okay,
It's fun.
Good, good.
I like it.
Yeah. What did we play
It's a
that was
favorite.
similar to that
It was
recently?
like train.
Ticket to Ride.
Yeah, Ticket to Ride.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
I
was
have
good
Ticket to Ride
too.
Europe and US. I'm
Yeah, we
obsessed.
played Europe
Ticket to Ride.
over Christmas with my family.
I liked
It
that
was
game.
fun.
Yeah.
Should we string these off the edge, or
If they're
we're not-
bothering you, you could do whatever you need.
Whatever, I don't care. I don't want to seem like I care too much,
Yeah.
but this one is bothering me. There we go.
Okay,
It's all
cool.
about the
Um,
aesthetic.
Okay, so can you explain what exactly your job is? I mean, do you manage Slipknot? Is that still,
Also,
or
the
you work
Yeah,
for the
I'm-
company, or you're their one manager?
No. So
Okay.
my boss, Corey Brennan, has been managing Slipknot for 18 years. And I work with him on everything he does for the band at this point. So,
Very cool.
kind of like the second hand to help do whatever needs to be done on any given day with Slipknot, with Clown, Corey. And then I also manage the Distillers and a
Yes.
new metal rapper artist named Dana Dentata.
Super cool.
All right.
Yeah,
Awesome.
she's the first female solo artist to be signed to Roadrunner Records.
And are
Cool.
all these artists on
Roadrunner.
Roadrunner?
No,
Okay.
the Distillers are not. They're on Rise. But Slipknot's been on Roadrunner for the past 6 records. They have 7 on their contract that they signed 18, 20 years ago. So, working on the last installment of that. But we do a lot of work with Roadrunner, especially they're just a great partner for metal bands.
Cool. And
Yeah.
what is your day-to-day sort of? I mean, I'm sure it changed with the pandemic, but what was
Definitely
it before
changed.
and what was it after the pandemic? Your sort of day-to-day, week-to-week stuff.
I
you're
mean,
doing.
before it involved going on tour sometimes and helping with whether it's, setting up and figuring out what VIP we're going to do for a tour. I help run all of the merchandise with Clown from Slipknot and help him handle all the creative and everything for that. The biggest way it's changed is not having the band on the road and us not interacting with them in person on a day-to-day basis. So now it's a lot of calls, a lot of finding ways to stay connected, whether it's Zoom or phone calls or whatever, but finding alternatives to being creative, whatever they want to do, whether it's Corey Taylor releasing his first solo record during this
Oh, cool.
time, or we did that last year, and he actually did the first show at the Forum since they shut down in May, and
Oh,
we had a
wow.
live stream from there. So
Cool.
you know, did 2 live streams with the Distillers and started a fan club for them. Just like anything
Because
you
weren't
can
they
do to help
supposed to
bring that
be?
connection.
Weren't they going on tour or just kicking off a tour?
Yeah, we had tours planned for them for last summer that was pushed to this summer, which we'll see if European festivals still happen. Slipknot had an entire tour scheduled. We had a cruise scheduled. We were doing the first ever Knot Fest cruise with Slipknot headlining and going from like Barcelona to Italy, and it was we were supposed to be in Japan for a festival a week before the or a week after the shutdown happened. So it was like the year of international takeover for both of those bands. And
crazy.
We sat at home.
That takes the wind out of your sails pretty quick. How are you guys, do you think, like, are staying motivated and positive about finding these new ways to connect and like figure it all out, even though it's kind of lost a lot of the bells and whistles and like the parts that really fill your cup back up? And they're like something to look forward to.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely feel like there's more to look forward to now because the vaccine is being rolled out and things are happening. And, you know, hope if 26,000 people can go to the Super Bowl, we can figure out how to have a concert again. You know, like that's total bullshit. But
for sure,
that's not whatever. That's beyond me. But, you know, for us, it's finding ways to get them in the studio or get people creating and working on whatever the art is and not relying on touring anymore. And that keeps people creatively moving. No one feels like they're stuck in one place. It's just whether it's creating a piece of art, a movie, you know, writing something, or getting in a studio and actually playing. These are all the things that just need to continue so that when we get back out there, everybody feels like they haven't missed a beat.
Yeah, of my knowledge of the music industry, it was like when records and CDs were selling, like that's your money, that's your main income. And then that kind of dried up. And so then for maybe 20 years or so, touring is it. Like you got to tour, that's your main bread and butter. Do you feel now that because of the pandemic, we're going to see a shift where people are finding ways to make money without touring, and maybe touring will become less of like that sort of exclusive number one slot for revenue?
I don't think so. I think touring will stay that number one slot just because people aren't used to paying for content the way that they're used to paying for tickets. Like YouTube has made it so that everybody expects to have these shows or these experiences available to them for free. Same with Instagram Live and everything that we've done to make to remove that barrier. And then saying pay $10, $15, $20 to attend this live stream for an hour. And it's like, why would I do that? So I feel like that it's becoming more of a norm these days, but it's never going to fully supplement. You're never going to see the same numbers selling tickets to one live stream event that you will from a whole tour. And like from a business side, bands make more money selling merchandise on the road than they do selling it e-commerce online through their own merch store. So it's like everything is different and everything is shifted in their favor when you can actually get on tour.
For sure. Touring is sort of like a moving merch store, essentially.
Thing,
It maybe becomes that a little bit. A merch store where you pay a cover to get in.
It's like when you have a gift card, though. If somebody gives you a gift card or you go in to redeem one, you always end up spending more because you're like in this energy where you've got like,
and there's such
you're in
an
a good
experience.
spirit, you're there, you've got a discount, you're just going to live it up.
I mean, I've never been to a Slipknot show, but I imagine that is like an experience.
Well, we'll have to change that. It is totally an experience.
I can't wait till that's like the thing. It's like, let's go back to shows. Like,
Slipknot's fascinating too because like we were just on a Zoom with my family before this, and I said we're interviewing Brittany. She works with Slipknot, and like everyone knows who Slipknot is. My mom has never heard of Slipknot. Like their cultural relevance is undeniable.
Yeah,
like
absolutely. That's so funny that your parents still know the name.
For sure, they for sure know the name. Like, and like who doesn't know the name Slipknot? I could not sing you a Slipknot song, but I know they're rad and I know who they are. And like, but I'm not such a metal guy anyway. So it's like it's not exactly my lane. So, but anyway, it's just really.
You know me, I was like the goth kid who listened to Slipknot in high school. So it's just all full circle. It's
you were right where you're meant to be. It's awesome.
So are you just living the Brit Buckley dream right now?
I mean, essentially, it's like, it's so silly. And sometimes we'll be on calls and Clown will reference it and he'll be like, Brit knows, like, she's been with us since the beginning. She's listened to us since she was 14. And like, it's just really funny because it gives me a different perspective for doing the merchandise for one. Cause I'm like, oh wow, like this is what I would wear at 14, but like, what would I wear now? I'm the fan who grew up still loving.
Yeah. You're the targeted demographic. That's perfect.
Yeah. 5 years into working with them and I still love them. So it's a blessing.
That's
awesome.
Lucky too, that like, it didn't, working with them didn't like taint your impression of them. That's really...
Yeah. They say don't meet your favorite, exactly. artists or whoever, but, this one surprisingly great.
They say not to date your best friend either, but this is going well.
Do they say that? I think they say the opposite.
No, people always say like don't date your friends because you'll potentially ruin a friendship.
Oh yeah. Well, when we break up, it'll be destroyed. But it's funny. Like I don't think of you as a goth kid because I remember you being like the other kid in school who was like a big Beatles fan. I don't know why I had that perception.
Yeah.
Like, I guess your dad is a big Beatles fan. Did your dad?
And then right there.
Exactly. And then I'm seeing Help and I'm seeing, or that's not Help. Hard Day's Night up there?
It's a Hard Day's Night. And we've got
Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. Yeah. We got, what's top
Carole
left
King, there? David Bowie, Ziggy Stardust.
Nice.
We've got a cat named Ziggy Stardust. And then I've got a baby Slayer. We've got a cat named Slayer too.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's working from home, really fun.
Super cool. So, I mean, I guess the metal was like the music you discovered on your own.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like the Beatles and Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd, and like Fleetwood Mac, David Bowie, those were the bands my parents gave me growing up. So before, I hit the angsty teenage years, I was like the total 60s kid who wished I was born at a different time and imagined going and seeing the Beatles and all of these, A Hard Day's Night was my favorite album and my favorite movie. I just like lived for everything from that time.
That's amazing. So, I can also relate to the angst. Paul does not understand angst in any fiber of his body.
Phase. I never was.
I don't remember you having an angsty phase.
I never had angst.
I've hid it forever. I am like a moody girl inside, but like, yeah, I don't know. I hid it well, but the Yeah Yeah Yeahs were my favorite band, which like Fever to Tell came out swinging pretty hard. But I listened to a lot of bands that like my sister would show me, like Tool and Audioslave and things that like felt pretty close, but not like metal, but still a lot of alternative. And I don't know, like just bands that felt angsty enough to me.
I love the Yeah Yeah Yeahs for the record, and like Rage Against the Machine, like but Rage they're sort of funky to me, like it's all like the Yeah Yeah Yeahs and Rage are still, there's a little funk to it that I think,
and probably more pop and
maybe. But do I remember this correctly? Does your dad have a piece of the bed sheet that John Lennon died in?
Okay, no, that turned really dark, but I can't believe you remember that.
It blew my mind.
We have a square of a bed sheet from a hotel they stayed in.
Okay.
People, not that he died. No, he died on the street, first of all.
Well, but maybe they took him to a hospital and he was pronounced dead.
They put him on a blanket. Sheets. They covered him with a sheet, and she's got the pieces.
She's got a piece of the sheet.
Oh my God.
That's funny. I'm glad I asked. I always thought it was the sheets like he died in.
No, it was the people at the hotels they used to stay in. They would take the sheets from their rooms, cut them up, and sell 1-inch squares of them.
Oh my God.
But is there any way to even validate that? Like to confirm that?
I don't know. It's like probably not. But, we have this cool, like framed old school thing with a tiny piece of bed sheet. I wish I had it. He won't give it to me yet, but someday.
It's okay.
That's so funny.
Yeah, that was one of the weirdest things we owned as growing up, for sure.
I remember it. I remember it so well. Yeah. Well, I guess not, because I thought it was the ones he died in.
I mean, it's like a game of telephone.
But it stuck with me. I was like, fuck, dude, that's so fucking cool. Because like my dad, we had like John Lennon art, but not original art, just like art. But I like that was like, same. I thought that was cool. And then like you were like, we got a sheet. I was like, fuck. And he's like, beat me.
But you will forever be everything.
You're so musical, so influenced by music. Did you ever play music?
I did. So in middle school or whenever you're fourth grade, they make you pick an instrument. I played saxophone.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept that up until like seventh or eighth grade. As soon as my parents actually bought my saxophone, I think I quit like 2 months later.
Damn, I was just saying we need a
and they're like,
friend who
look,
plays
we're
saxophone.
buying this thing, okay? So
yeah, they're like, you're committed now. And I was like, yeah, totally. Because I'm so over it.
That's so funny.
But I still have it. And it's in my office in LA, and I keep threatening to try to play again and chickening out. But I have to do it. It's just a matter of...
See if it's like riding a bike.
Yeah, I picked it up again in college for a little bit because I took music theory. And I was like, I feel like it'll be easier to understand if I'm playing again and trying to apply it. And then I realized a couple of weeks into the class, when you're like really committed, that it ends with a performance. And I was terrified. And they made me do a jazz improv performance. And I don't think I've played since.
Wow.
That sounds awful. I would not have slept for probably 3 weeks before that performance, FYI. So congrats on making it through.
We're lucky Christine is here on this show.
That sounds awful. I understand. I'm picking up on the messages you're sending.
But at least improv jazz performance is there's a pretty wide range that would be accepted as
It's hard to mess that one up.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of freedom there. Okay, I have questions. Hit me with it. Because so I have my band, That Kid Is You. I sent you some of the music. But anyway, we're getting ready to release that album. We made it in Argentina with this producer who worked with Coco Rosie. I don't know if you know Coco Rosie, the band.
I don't.
They're like an indie weird band.
Okay.
But anyway, we're getting ready to release this record, and we're just trying to do it right. And my biggest question, we're putting together an EPK and thinking like, are we pitching ourselves to management? Are we pitching ourselves to labels? Do I even want to sign to a label? Or so what's your take on the labels in general? Like, should I be seeking out a label or should I try not to?
You can you can think of a label as a bank. Like, really, it's, do you want and need the support, help, financing, marketing, all of the different aspects that a label brings? And for a lot of artists, it makes sense. But I think it's more important to get a manager before you get a label, because the manager will make sure that label deal doesn't skew too far from being in your favor. Like, the manager is the person who helps you control all the other arms of your business. If you have a manager, they can help you find the business manager, the label, the tour, whatever it may be. And if you decide a label isn't for you, you can always release something a different way. And I'm biased because that's why I work in management. That's why I like it. But I do feel like you can really walk hand in hand with an artist and help them make those decisions and make sure all of the proper team members are in place.
If you had a band come to you and you love this band, you're like, we're going to manage you guys. And they said, we don't want to sign to a label. What would be how would you then approach that?
I mean, there's different ways that you can go about pressing a record yourself and selling it independently. So you just, it would be a matter of, if everything's recorded, then just taking that and finding the best rate and distribution deal, someone who has some reach outside of the band's socials, but you have to grow all of your numbers online, as cheesy as it sounds too.
Of course,
everything from, your Instagram, SoundCloud, Spotify. In this day and age, when everyone's home and you're not selling tickets, that's the only way you can really quantify your value and your growth are those solid numbers.
Mm-hmm. And when you say distribution deal, which I hear this term a lot, and I don't exactly, especially nowadays, like, what exactly does that mean? Just a distribution deal?
Well, like, if you're going to be selling the album as a vinyl and a CD, where are you going to be selling it? So a distributor, helps you get it into different stores, different locations. Otherwise, you can sell it online just through your store and your socials. But a record label helps you get that reach and helps you get into those brick and mortar locations or different, e-commerce stores that could have an impact.
Okay, cool. The bands or the kind of deals that people are signing. I hear a lot about 360 deals, things like that. Like what, if you can't get into it too much, that's fine. But like, what kind of deals do your bands have with their labels, like in working with them?
That I can't really get into.
Okay, yeah, no worries.
But I think you get more leverage by having different deals with different partners. So separate your merch deal from your label deal, separate your different entities so that your business is clear and you're not giving a cut of, 60% of the pie from all of these different things to one person, because then they have an opinion and it can skew and weigh more than yours.
Got you.
That's smart. You got to diversify.
Diversify the portfolio. Was this something you wanted to get into? Like in high school, is like, Brittany, what do you want to be when you grow up? Was it band manager or like in music?
No, I had no idea. Like in high school, I really didn't know. When I went to Indiana, I started as journalism and poli-sci major and like a pre-law.
That's good for
track.
A moody girl. That's a good for a smart angsty girl. I like it.
Doesn't. And then I ended up joining a sorority and changing to artist management instead with a music concentration. So I got to take like the history of Jimi Hendrix. School? No, it's through the School of Public and Environmental Affairs.
Seems like a weird place for it.
Very weird. But, I got to take like that auditorium management and artist management and all of these kind of like 101 classes that just give you an overview of what the business could be. But they also had people from like Bon Iver's record labels based in Bloomington, Indiana. So they had people from the label come in and talk. And, it really did give me a great perspective on different career paths. 'Cause my mom worked in radio growing up. So like, my first summer back after school, I was an intern at a radio station. And I was like, well, this is terrible. Like, this is so not what I want to do. It was like all radio promo. Mm-hmm. And I knew I wanted to do something that was more artist heavy and where you actually had a say and an impact in some way on the art and who it reaches. Like, you can make such a difference in people's lives in so many ways through art. But for me, music was always the most impactful. So I knew I wanted to do something in that world, but I had no idea what. And I kind of just moved out here with no job and started cold calling people and figuring out, okay, there's agencies. Like, I don't really know what they do, but I called the front desk at CAA one day and I got lucky and someone gave me an email address and I got an interview, and like 3 interviews later, I made my way in, and it kind of I feel like it all spiraled from there. But I was lucky because I took time before trying management. I worked at an agency for 4 years. I worked at a record label for just under a year. And then I was like, this is so not for me. Like, I really do. The people I enjoy talking to the most in both of these jobs are kind of the managers and the artists. So it felt like a natural progression, and I've been doing it for about 5 years now.
So cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, but like the label was the weirdest thing. Like, I worked at Aftermath Records, which I never would have imagined going
That's
to.
Dr. Dre's record label, right?
Yeah. And it's like there's certain places you expect to be, and you expect to really be on the ground floor, and you kind of get held in the wings, and it's like, okay, like we got to find another avenue. We got to find another way. So I feel like music can be very, I don't know, it can weed a lot of people out in that if you're not okay just like deviating and finding a new window.
So you felt like when you worked at Aftermath, you were sort of like underutilized, perhaps.
Yeah, definitely.
Got you. And so is like, I need something I can really sink my teeth into, like, and like,
nobody puts Brittany in the corner.
That's right.
And somewhere I knew I could grow. Like, it just had to be somewhere that there was a possibility for something other than an assistant. Like, you start working in music and you bounce around from assistant to executive assistant positions for a minute, just gaining all of that knowledge, because you go kind of straight from assistant to there's no like in between. There's not really like a junior manager or like a training level. Like you go from being an assistant to being a manager or being an executive of some kind, and you kind of do your time and wait until you have all your cards in line. And yeah, sometimes the decision's made for you.
I always tell people like to, at least I ended up actually working more in film, but like the way to sort of get ahead in the entertainment industry, I feel, is like get in over your head and then figure it out. Like put yourself like just under the water, and like you'll either survive or you don't, but you probably will. Like if you have to, you will, you know?
Yeah. Never be the smartest person in the room and fake it till you make it. Like there's nothing you can't do. There's no situation you likely haven't been able to get yourself out of. So just believe in your ability to figure it out and forget the rest.
Fuck yeah.
I love that advice.
Did you say in college you took a history of Jimi Hendrix class?
I did.
That's
history of Jimi Hendrix is awesome. Yeah.
Whatever happened to his clothes? Where can you buy a square of his fabric outfits? I want some of that.
Urban Outfitters, I think, bought all of
definitely.
it.
Super legit.
Was there anything like super surprising you learned in that class about Jimi Hendrix? Because I feel like a lot of the lore is pretty like public knowledge or somewhat.
No, I don't feel like there was anything that was super out there and like not well known, but it's cool because in those classes you dive into each record and you listen to each song and talk about what they're all about. And it was like they did the same for, I mean, for some of them it's too complex to do that, but like the Beatles, we really dissected every record. They do like the history of Frank Zappa, which I did not take, because the quizzes is like it's half basically music trivia and then half of it are listening questions. So they'll play 30 seconds from any portion of the song and you have to say what record it's from and what the name of it is. And Frank Zappa songs are like 10 to 20 minutes long.
Yeah.
I'm like, I couldn't do that. But
there's a really killer Frank Zappa documentary on Amazon Prime right now that I recommend.
Really?
Yeah, it's
I'll check it out.
It's dope. It's super dope. But do you think, well, what's your favorite Jimi Hendrix record?
Oh, what a hard question. I mean, I would probably have to say Are You Experienced is just a classic. Mm-hmm. But the first song that comes to mind is Belly Button Window, which is not from that record.
I don't know it either.
It's written from the perspective of an unborn child.
Yeah, I feel like the death of Jimi Hendrix is maybe the most tragic loss to like music ever, because like a guy who was like always changing, and like what Jimi Hendrix would have done the next 40 years to follow his death would have been like mind blowing. And he was even kind of getting into hip hop right before his death with like what are the Poets or something? There's some group that he was working with. Anyway, like I feel like it's a tragic loss. Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah, I mean Jimi Hendrix, and to die at 27, him and Janice Joplin were just two iconic and bluesy, like very pure, honest souls who were crushed by their demons. And I feel like that was just a time when these lecherous people would just like grab on to the stars and feed them anything they could to kind of stay in the circle. And it was the demise of so many great artists. I can't even imagine what we would have gotten from either of them, or like, you know, Bob Marley, all of these amazing people who passed along before they should.
I actually feel the same way about Mac Miller. Like,
I don't know
how big of a fan you are, but like everything he did was just getting like better and better and better. And it was always changing. And he was like pushing, he was just at the front of like the train of pop culture. Like he was right at the front, and he was just like.
That last album with Self-Care on it was just like, it's special.
Yeah.
But that was such an eloquent way to say it. Like they just lost these battles with their own demons, and I don't know. It's just, it reminded me of the Britney Spears documentary that we were just talking about on a call before this. And
did you see it?
Oh my God, we did.
We haven't watched it. We're gonna watch it.
You have to watch it. It's so depressing.
I fully plan to. But it's just like, it's so heartbreaking. We
consumed that shit, you know? Like everything the tabloids said, we were just like, oh God.
Yeah,
and
like we're all guilty.
This bullying culture that happened so across the masses, and it's just too much for a person to bear sometimes.
And then there was that one guy who was like screaming like, "Leave Britney alone," and like we all clowned on him.
Yeah,
but like he was
ahead of the curve.
That
he
guy.
was ahead of the curve, and he knew. Just be nice. Just be nice. And obviously,
leave the poor girl alone.
It's like with any human experience, you're just seeing the tip of the iceberg. You don't know what people are dealing with. You don't know what's going on in their lives. And I hope people can be nice. Let's just be nice.
Yeah. I feel like nowadays too, at least you still end up getting your Mac Millers and tragedies like that in Juice WRLD. But there have been lessons learned from Jimi Hendrix's era that now you run into so many celebrities who are like, I'm sober and I meditate and and they kind of have a more good head on their shoulders, I think, from just seeing the demise of their heroes or something.
I think part of it's that, and I think part of it is a lot of the artists who are like that today went through that also in the 80s and 90s, maybe on a smaller scale, maybe with different substances. But, I work with Corey Taylor, who speaks openly about being sober and his past demons, and another member of the band succumbed to his demons, years before I worked with them. But it's something that is still super prevalent. It's happening all the time. And I think it took until recently for wellness to become the norm in the conversation and the thing that everybody that is attractive and that is cool and that everybody wants to do, whether it's, Blink-182 bringing a vegan chef out on the road with them, or different people bringing yoga instructors on the road. It's never been more normal to do yoga and be seen eating vegan and wearing exercise clothes all the time, no matter who you are. So it's that permeates everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like when I was a kid, I wanted my rock stars fucked up. I didn't want to know that Blink-182 didn't drink, or I didn't want to know
of course Anthony Kiedis does drugs.
You better,
yeah,
you fucking
right?
better, Yeah, it's society. I think we're all just as guilty of destroying people.
We
Britney
wanted to consume. It's like a train wreck. You like watching this breakdown of people. It's it's literally the wheel of fortune. I think people who are in a low-lying spot on the wheel, they tend to get kicks off of watching people fall to join them,
sure,
you know, and that's been going on for a long time.
For sure, that
true.
And that's
that
probably,
kind of sentiment
that's kind of
in
what we
literature
were.
And things.
We were just a bunch of haters, almost. We were
literally
just getting mad at Paris Hilton for being a billionaire. It's she's fucking
look at
killing
Justin Bieber.
Yeah,
literally, we created Justin Bieber as the star that he is, and then everybody tore him down and hated on him when he was a snotty teenager for a minute. When he's literally a product of American culture. He was found on YouTube, exploited and destroyed in a way just by what the expectations were of him, and then he had to basically go in the media and be I'm a real person too.
It's so interesting. It's interesting you said that. We were just talking about him earlier.
In talking about the Britney thing, because it's just it's
unfair. Of course he's a jerk to his fans. He's a snot. He's been the center of attention on this massive scale his whole life. Of course he's disconnected from the reality and has money to spend and all these things that set him up to think that rules don't apply to him. Of course he is that way, and that we all of a sudden think is bad.
To pretend we would be any different. If you would have gave me $50 million and I was the most famous person when I was 16, I would be obnoxious.
Totally.
I would just be the worst. So,
well, I think the other thing is people think they own you. They think that you, because they've bought your records, because they bought tickets to your show, if they see you in person, you owe them your time. And that's not the case. There's art, there are things that you consume, and then there's a human being. And I've seen that line be crossed so many times that it's uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's a good point to make. I think also with this rise of wellness being cool, there's also at least somewhat of a the stigmas being chipped away at in terms of mental health issues in general. And obviously some people are going to be predisposed to having more of a hard time or more anxiety with that kind of criticism or that kind of attention or, any number of things. It doesn't hit everybody the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Going back to Jimi Hendrix, do you think how do you think he died? Because there's like...
I was going to say, I don't want to say it, but I don't remember how he died. So when you like, you
do you
didn't
know about
say
the
it.
Conspiracies of his
I don't know
murder?
about the conspiracies.
Oh, okay.
No.
How did he die?
Well, he died like he had an overdose. Like he had sleeping pills and wine, like bad combination or something, and choked on his
Sleeping
vomit.
on his back and choked
But
on
a
his
lot
own
of people
vomit.
say they saw him that night. He only had a glass of wine, and like his management was sort of like wanted him dead, sort of, because they wanted to take control of his estate, and he was like
disgusting.
changing his band all the time, and like wanted to go new directions, and they kind of wanted to like keep it, you know, what it was. Like they wanted to kind of keep him in a box or something.
So this
for their
is
own
you
benefit.
putting a conspiracy out into the air, huh?
Yeah. I'm
I'm into this one. I want to figure this shit out.
Yeah, seriously.
I've heard some stuff about it, and I don't think
Is there a part 2 of that course? We got to go back to IU, get the syllabus,
hit
see
up
what's
that
up.
professor.
Yeah.
I don't think he was murdered, but it's one of those conspiracies that's out there. But I guess they don't teach it in at IU.
It did not teach that
It's
at
probably
IU.
for the best. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, what about Janice Joplin? What happened to her again?
A similar
Overdose.
choked. Yeah, overdosed. Yeah.
Puke. She choked on her own puke.
Probably, right? I mean, that's basically
I think that's what I don't know. I think it was a heroin overdose and something similar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, back then it was like that's how you died if you were a rock star. It feels like I remember
or a plane crash. Plane crashes came in handy. They knocked out a few
They
grades.
came in handy. Yeah. Yeah, like I remember when George Harrison died, people were like, "Wow, that's the first like rock star from that era to die of just like kind of natural like disease causes, you know, like not self-inflicted death." But what bands you dig in today? Like what are you listening to?
I'm listening to a lot of Taylor Swift right now. I'm not gonna lie.
Awesome.
Don't lie.
Is that her
new
newest
albums
album?
are amazing. Yeah.
I haven't really dove in. There was a radio single that came on that I didn't love. But I think I'm behind in my like new music quest. I got to listen to that Distillers album.
Listen to Folklore, yeah.
I'll put Folklore on.
That I'm liking. I listen to a lot of the same stuff, so I love like the National. Nothing that's like very new. I should get hip with the times, but I really, really like my like indie rock.
Were you hip with the times as a kid, or were you like listening to your dad's music?
Never.
And your parents' music?
I literally remember someone in 6th grade being like, all you listen to is like old shit that our parents listened to. Like, check this out. And gave me Enema of the State by Blink-182 and I think International Super Hits by Green Day. And that's when I was like, oh, okay, cool. This is what kids are listening to.
Green Day was a mood for sure.
Such a mood. My mom took me to a Green Day show once, and I couldn't believe she knew every word. It was like the coolest childhood.
Yeah, my
moment.
dad loved it too. I remember he had that CD in the car. How are you listening? Like on vinyl, or I guess that's stuff?
No, that was like all
not.
CDs back in the day. I would walk around with my Walkman.
I know the Walkman. I missed the Walkmans. They felt very personal.
Oh yeah.
That's like my happy place is with all the vinyl now.
Nice.
I love working from home.
Behind us, we have our collection too back there.
I love it.
No Doubt's up there. Tragic Kingdom right now. That was the last thing I was listening to.
Yeah, we love our records. It's like, I mean, whatever. It's such a hipster thing to talk about. Like, I love my record. I just like the vinyl, you know.
Well, I've never had a record player before, so this is literally like the first time in my life, and it just feels like you're involved. It's like driving stick shift. Like you're just more present in the experience somehow.
Mm-hmm.
And it is an experience. It's not a background thing.
Yeah, it's true. But I'm with you. Like working from home, like just putting on a record, and it's like a little bit, seems almost like less quiet, or how do I want to say this? Less loud and like invasive than when I'm listening through like a stereo or something. Just the sound quality is like gentler or something.
Sure, yeah.
And you
hear whole albums
Yeah, it's
too,
warmer.
You can't, like, it's like when you don't have Wi-Fi and it's like, oh, this is so nice. But then as soon as you have Wi-Fi, you're just like in your phone, you know? It's like, when you listen to the record, you're just listening to the whole thing. And like you could do that on Spotify, but like you're probably not gonna. You're probably gonna do like a playlist of a bunch of things. And it's like,
the musical ADD isn't allowed in the room with a vinyl.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's how I'm used to listening to a CD, right? Like I just always remember I would start to sing the next song on the CD because you get so used to listening to it in that specific order,
sure.
You know, and like just driving around and like playing a CD through and through. I don't know. It's just, yeah, I guess once Spotify came around, my whole style of listening changed. I didn't really realize that I missed like that part of it, like just diving into the whole experience.
Well, that's also the way the artist means for it to be experienced a lot of the time is they put together a cohesive work of art, a cohesive album, and then people chop it up into playlists or into like, what are the top 5 on your Spotify? So it's like you really do get to have a moment and be a part of the music and of the record when you listen to it from beginning to end.
It's good that like you being in the music industry, you clearly haven't lost like your love for it. You know, it's like they almost say like don't make your hobby your job or whatever the fucking saying is. But you know, like, but it ruins it. But it's good. It's refreshing hearing.
But they
that
also say if you do something you'll love, you'll never work a day in your life.
Right. So I guess they say all sorts of shit.
Everybody says everything all the time.
But did you have concern like getting into any of this like industry, like, oh,
for sure.
You know, am I going to ruin it or something?
I mean, less of am I going to ruin it, but like, will it ruin me? Like, it's a lot. It is, you know, demanding hours. There's no real off time. You're just available for the artist when they need you to be available. And like, you have to be okay with that. So while there are certain things you can put boundaries up for or certain emails you won't respond to at a certain point, like you can never fully unplug. So it's like, how long are you okay with not being able to unplug? And so far I've been able to find a balance and like, I'm fine. I like it. I work with people who I respect and they respect me. So it's been easier to find a balance, but that is the question. It's just like there's no off switch.
So speaking of wellness, what do you do to like recharge other than play those board games, listen to the records?
I start every day
friends.
Yeah. I start every day with meditation and at least like 30 to 45 minutes of exercise. And then I try to read for a little bit before work too, just so I have like me time. I read like 30 some books last year. Wow. I'm on like my 7th book this year. I'm like, I need to consume other things that are not musical to keep the balance going and to still enjoy my job all the time.
Nice.
Are you a morning person or a night person?
Morning person. I fall asleep on this couch by like 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah, Christine.
Work hard, play hard. Yeah. I have the most energy in the morning.
And that's good for you. If you're waking up early, like most of your industry is still sleeping. So, you know, that is kind of like your you time.
Jump start.
Yeah. I like staying up late because I feel like that's my time. Like the whole world's asleep, like, and I'm up, you know, no one can really bug me. And for you, probably waking up early is like maybe a similar kind of feeling.
Yeah, it totally is. I mean, what are you guys doing for wellness these days? It's hard being home and finding the balance.
I drink a lot of tea. We did just get all the stuff we didn't have a drain in our bathtub when we moved in. So we got that so we can take baths now. Or the plug, you know, the plug. So
the
now
opposite of a drain.
Yeah, the opposite. My mind was kind of close.
I knew what you meant. I'm with you.
But so the baths, the Epsom salts in there, that's a good thing.
Yeah, I've been like drinking less coffee and less booze and trying to, but I've also been like, I don't know what we're doing for wellness.
You meditate on a daily basis?
Not on a daily basis, but I meditate sometimes. And I mean, I always just try to kind of keep calm, stay present, and like, you know, be grateful, like remind yourself like you're lucky, like this is fun, you know, like my job is really fun. And like sometimes it's like a lot of work and it's still a job. It's like, I love it. Sometimes I'd still like rather not, you know, like if I had $1 billion, I don't think I would be here doing this right now, you know, like even though it's as far as ways to make a living, it's like the best, but I'd still sometimes rather not. And like, I just remind myself, like I talk to like 14-year-old me and be like, here's your life. You do this, you know this guy, this person, you hung out with them the other day and you did this. Like that's your life. And I also say that I ended up with Christine, who I had a huge crush on like my whole life too.
How wild.
So but like anytime I'm sort of like just feel like I'm not satisfied. Like I talk to that kid and that kid's always fucking stoked. And, and so it just helps me appreciate things. But I do feel like I need to exercise more.
I definitely do too. I feel it's interesting. Like, I just feel like it takes energy to make energy. Like, you have to use it to get it and have it. And I don't know. I've definitely been like getting bogged down with some like stress and anxiety. I'm finding ways to like do art and make music and, write or whatever it takes to like let the pressure out, so to speak. But
we need to take a page out of the Brit Buckley handbook over here.
We did get as Paul will say, 2 new sports balls. So we got a soccer and a basketball. So we're like going to go play some games of horse.
But we've only played soccer in the house a few times.
Oh, that sounds safe.
It is.
Not at all destructive.
Yeah, it's a little destructive, but it's fun.
It's a little loud. I feel bad for our neighbors, but it is super fun. We play in our bathroom. Well, we played in our family room too, but in the bathroom, it's like if I get it past the toilet or he gets it in the tub, it's a goal. So it's kind of fun.
What's like, do you talk to sort of more seasoned managers ever? And like, what's the best advice you've gotten from someone like who's been in the industry longer than you?
What a good question. I mean, I work with a lot of great managers who have been doing it longer than me, and I talk to other people in the industry, but I think one of the best and simplest pieces of advice I've gotten was just you fake it until you make it. Like, as long as the artist doesn't see and you look confident, you can figure anything out. So just fake it. And
that's such a good advice, especially for women, because I've read that like statistically men are more likely to like put a phrase on their resume that they're not fully mastered, like they haven't fully mastered it, but like a woman wouldn't do the same thing because she feels it's misleading. And like there's certain kind of gender norms that they've shown that kind of like impact women's chances of like going for it.
A man will ask for a raise if he thinks he like kind of has earned it or like maybe should get it. A woman won't ask for a raise unless she has like 10 bullet points saying like what she's done to already earn that money, which I'm guilty of acting that way when it's like, we definitely hold ourselves back until we feel like we're like 120% there. And I feel like
totally
that is not
relate to that. I totally relate to that. And I definitely see that on like my must work on list for my next kind of career move, because like you said, you just have to like work on the boundaries and work on ensuring that you're doing all the other things to, fill yourself up and like keep that sustainability alive, because it's a long haul if it's like your dream job,
Sure.
Yeah. And like life is so short. We only have one life. You just like, you got to figure out how to make your days yours too.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know. Quarantine has put things in perspective.
For sure.
Yeah, I would say like, so I definitely know what you mean. Like the phone's always, so you keep your sound on, right? Like you have to be available. You don't miss calls.
Yeah, that I don't think I could
do.
I
can't do the sound on because sometimes I get these group, you know how group text is.
It's I have the group to turn that off.
And you're just like, oh my God, 95 messages. I was in the bathroom for 1 minute. Like, how did that happen?
Yeah. Yeah, I commend your ability to sort of be available like all the time. I with my job, like when I leave, I'm gone. If you call me, I probably won't even pick up.
But like time wise, so now you still have this like in your house and stuff. It sounds like you're finding ways to like separate, like you probably have your reading spot, like that's a cozy space for you versus where you set up your computer. Like those, do you keep the spaces separate?
Like life changing. Yeah. Because I was working like from a TV tray on my couch at first because we were like, how long is this really going to be?
Right.
And then about 6 months into it, I was like, oh my God, if I work from a TV tray for another day, like I'm going to lose my mind. So I had to set up like an actual area that is like over there and away from things. And I cannot be there after a certain time of night. I tried to like hang out there and play virtual Catan with friends one night. And by like 45 minutes into it, I started to lose it. And I'm like, oh, it's because you're still sitting at your desk at 8 p.m.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
like,
you're done.
Gotta get out.
But compared to the hours you would work before, like on your feet and at events and things, do you think that the time you spend on the job now is decreased with the COVID and the quarantine, or is it just sort of like really shifting your roles? I mean,
the hours that were spent at events have definitely become mine again, but the day-to-day hours and the day-to-day demands have increased, if anything, because we knew what we were doing before, and it's been all about recalibrating and like having a goal, and then the world shifts and everything that's going on shifts, and now you have to like go this way instead.
And go that way through a bunch of red tape, like trying to navigate all the protocols, which like aren't even consistent most of the time. Man.
Yeah, and it's like what's going to be allowed to happen, you know, with touring, and then with Brexit, what's going on there, because that'll impact UK and European travel happening at the same time, and the logistics of that. So it's like all of these things that you can forget about because we're all living in our pods and we're doing our thing, but that impacts everything we have going forward too.
A lot of moving parts.
What do you see? And I know you have to get going kind of soon. What do you see, like, looking forward at the music industry? Like, what is sort of like going to be the most, I guess, or I'm trying to think of the words here, but like, what do you sort of predict for the future of the music industry? Like looking 10 or 20 years ahead, like what's gonna, do you have any sort of sense of what that's going to look like?
I mean, it's so hard to look a year ahead at this point, given the state of things, that I'm like, I'm just looking towards, like the next 2 years. I feel like once we get out of quarantine, it's going to be 24 months of straight touring, and like every band you've ever wanted to see playing a show, and wherever you're living, whether it's LA or, you know, Denver or whatever, there's going to be 5 bands playing each night or each weekend that you're like, oh wow, I want to go here and here and here, and like no one's going to be able to stop. And I think,
that won't contribute to burnout culture or anything.
Years. Yeah, right. I feel like we're hitting like the roaring 20s. It'll be like our version of,
for sure,
just constantly going out and trying to recapture the things we haven't been able to do for the past couple of years. And the creative cycle will continue, and touring will continue, and maybe we'll get more strange things like holographic shows or live streams will become that much more of a norm, and there will be a different way to interact and kind of integrate that human connection. But touring, I still think, is everything, no matter what the medium you're selling is. Like, people are selling cassettes now. It's not because you can listen to them, it's because it's the cool new thing. So it's like there are so many things that'll shift and change, but that in-person connection is the thing that's been bringing people to music since the beginning of time. And I don't think that aspect will ever evolve past that. Like, that really is the heart of everything.
Like the goosebumps on your skin, just like that moment when you're sitting there live.
Turning to your friend when like your favorite song started.
Oh my
What's
God,
the best live show you ever saw?
I was wondering about that.
Paul McCartney. I mean, fuck, nothing compares to him.
I never saw Paul McCartney.
Really?
Who have you seen the most?
I wish it was the same answer, but it's definitely not. I've seen a lot of Slipknot and Stone Sour.
That makes sense, but that seems like an outlier. So beyond Slipknot.
Beyond bands you work with.
I work with.
Yeah.
I might be Fall Out Boy.
Awesome. Cool. I've seen them. I think I saw them with All American Rejects, who I actually preferred at the time. I mean, I liked Fall Out Boy, but All American Rejects felt like less discovered somehow, and it meant more to me at the time. See, I told you I was moody and angsty.
So funny.
I just was like, it felt more private, and I liked it.
What's the best show you ever saw?
The best show I've ever seen. Oh gosh, that's hard too. I mean, seeing the Yeah Yeah Yeahs was a big moment for me. Probably that would be my favorite. Yeah. That was crazy. But
for me,
who else?
I think I gotta go with, gosh, there's two. One time I saw Dr. John. Do you know Dr. John?
Yeah.
At Bonnaroo, and it was just fucking the best. But I don't know if like maybe just like the weed was just hitting me just perfectly, but it was like the most fun I've ever had at a show. But then also, I think that same year at Bonnaroo, they do like a super jam. Like they just put people together or something for like for a show, like a one-time thing. And it was Questlove on drums, Ben Harper on like a slide guitar, and John Paul Jones on the bass. And they played, John Paul Jones is from Led Zeppelin. And they played like, they opened with The Ocean. and like they did a bunch of Zeppelin songs.
I would have lost my shit.
It was so crazy. When they first came out, it was like, this is Questlove. Like, yeah. This is Ben Harper. Yeah. And he's like, and that's John Paul Jones. And like this place exploded for like 10 straight minutes of just like,
oh my God,
insane applause. Like it was so heavy. And like, I'm like getting goosebumps just thinking about it. So that's probably my number one.
Yeah, I don't know what would beat that.
There's like a flood of shows coming to my mind now. I'm like, oh,
but I've never seen Paul McCartney. I've never seen Paul Simon. Like, I still have these.
There's still people
James
on my list
Taylor.
too.
I've never seen Paul Simon.
I would love to see James Taylor. I was obsessed with James Taylor.
Paul Simon came to the Hollywood Bowl in like 2014, and I was like, yeah, I'll see him next time. And I don't know.
I regret not going to Lollapalooza the year the Yeah Yeahs were there. I think it was like the same time the Chili Peppers were there, and like a bunch of other shows.
That show.
I wanted
did too.
to
That
see that
show was crazy.
It was insane.
I should have been there. I was probably at a Dave Matthews concert.
That was the other one that I was like, have I seen Dave or Fall Out Boy more?
Like
a close second.
Dave Matthews. What was it? Like our high school was obsessed with Dave Matthews.
Was it just us, or was it like everybody?
It was just like.
I mean, Dave was
very
huge.
Midwest.
It was very Midwest for
Michigan,
sure.
Michigan, Illinois, Wisconsin, whatever. But
speaking of, like, such a weird thing, I rarely ever put on his music now. Like, I would never do it. But when I do hear it, I love it just the same. Like, I really do think he's great. Their whole band and like,
I think we did Dave dirty.
They had so many instrumentals like that. I think their sax player was like, I know he died, but like I just remember like watching him on stage and just being so mesmerized. And I didn't grow up playing instruments, so it was sort of weird for me to just kind of pay attention to it in that way. Like I'm used to kind of enjoying music from a more like holistic approach, not like fixating on one sound or element.
A drummer, Carter Beauford was always like, their drummer is so damn good. But yeah, it's like we all got kind of. We were so into Dave that we like rejected Dave. We're like
we did it with Bieber.
Like anti-Dave.
This is the cycle. We love you until we hate you, and then we're gonna love you again when it's like retro. And it's just so.
Like, we'll be showing our kids Dave.
I know. I
think like Dave's gonna come back to California when the world opens up again, and we're all gonna go to Dave.
Let's do it.
I'm predicting this right now.
There will obviously
That's
still
the prediction for the future of music.
There we go.
Dave is coming back. Dude, let's go. Let's go see
We
Dave.
will tailgate, by the way. There will be somebody puking in between rows of cars.
It was Alpine Valley was the big
Valley in
Yes,
Wisconsin.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Every year, it would be like 2-3 nights.
And actually, I remember one year we went and Slipknot had played the night before with like a bunch of moshing fans, and the fields were completely torn up.
Oh, wow.
Fully like muddy and slippery, and it ended up like raining, and it was like a slosh fest of just drunk people sliding down the hills. Yeah. It was exactly the reason why my dad probably begged me not to go. It was like a mess, but it was fun.
Dave, man.
So
I feel
fun.
the same way about Jack Johnson. I've talked about this before, but we
loved
Jack Johnson.
He was
and it
my
was like,
first
whatever,
concert.
fuck Jack Johnson. Like, it became like...
It was like a very specific point in our lives, though.
He meant a lot to me, too. He before I got my driver's license, there was the time my mom had a golf cart, and I played On and On. That was like the CD I played in the golf cart. I thought it was so cool. But he was my first concert. Cool. And then Jimmy Buffett was the surprise guest. And like I was there with some friends, and they didn't even like know who he was. I was like, but it's Jimmy Buffett. Like, it was so exciting. I loved it. That was at this venue that I always forget the name of, that was kind of right downtown Chicago on the water, like looking back at the city, kind of near the Field Museum.
Oh.
It was a really fantastic venue.
I saw the Goo Goo Dolls there, and now I can't
I've never been back.
Was it called like something
since.
Island or something? Like
I don't know, but I need to know because I would love to see another show there.
Northerly Island.
That's it. Yeah.
It was so lovely. Like I just really remember that being such a nice venue.
Epic.
Okay, remind us before you have to go. The new band you mentioned, the last one you're managing. I want to check them out.
Dana Dentata. She's a solo artist. She's amazing. Just released a video on Friday for the song Do You Like Me Now? But she also has this 18-minute video called The Resurrection of Dana Dentata, where she's like slaying her demons, and it's very cool. That was before we worked with her. This is the video kit that came out yesterday is the first thing we've helped her release, but she's
It just
awesome.
Came out yesterday?
Mm-hmm.
Shit, congrats. That's exciting. All right, we're just in time.
Is there anything else, not that we're getting like massive viewership or anything, was there anything else we can like plug or promote for you?
No, I think that's it for now, but this was so fun. It was great to chat with you guys. I can't wait till we can do this again in person and like actually hang out. But
definitely. Absolutely. And we've got a yard-ish. We never really spend any time out there, but if you are comfortable hanging out outside sooner rather than later, I think
we sit around.
We could always do it. Sit
outside. I would love that.
We'll kick the sports ball around.
Yeah, we'll kick the ball around.
Let's kick some sports ball around, have a couple drinks. Paul, if there's any other questions you have as you guys get everything ready, let me know. I'm always here.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'll probably take you up on that.
Absolutely.
And appreciate you doing this show, and thanks for answering the questions I had. And
I love that you
cute. I didn't know he had notes.
This is so fun. I mean, that made me so happy. The notebook came out, and I was like, "Oh yeah, we're going."
Yeah. Well, I was just gonna call you and ask you these questions. I was like, "Let's do a podcast." Like,
why not?
Let's just put it out there. So
we're putting it out there. Here it goes.
It's out there.
Oh, it's out there.
We're live. We're live right now. Well, all right, Brittany. I know you got to get going, and thank you so much again for doing this. We'll talk to you soon.
Course.
Ladies and gentlemen, Brit Buckley.
Yes, stay well, dear.